Doc Rivers is out as head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. This news broke today, a little under 48 hours after the team was bounced in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. A series that they blew a 3-2 lead and just completely and utterly collapsed in the third quarter on in Game 7 of. Let's just put a cherry top on top of Doc Rivers' career in Philadelphia. It just couldn't get over that top. They brought him in to replace Brent Brown 3 years ago, and the expectations were crystal clear. Need to take that next step. We don't want Eastern Conference semifinals. We want NBA finals. We want NBA, Eastern Conference finals. We want that next step. We're ready for that next step with this process. And it never happened, which leads me to wonder what exactly was Sixers brass thinking they were getting themselves into with Doc. I mean, we know the guy can win. We know the guy is a hell of a coach, right? I mean, right now, one of 10 coaches with over 1,000 career wins. Those type of coaches don't grow on trees. I get it. And Doc was quickly reaching to that point when the Sixers hired him. Second all-time winningest active coach prior to today because he's now no longer gainfully employed. But prior to today, second all-time winningest active coach, only behind Greg Popovich. I mean, he's got a Hall of Fame resume in terms of wins and losses alone. He's pretty much won everywhere he went. He's had an NBA title back in 2009 with Boston. But you look at the playoff Doc Rivers, and yeah, I know he's got an NBA title in 2009, but behind that, it's been just a not very good. I mean, this was his fifth straight Game 7 loss, heading back to his time with the Clippers. This is, he's 6-10 all time in Game 7s. Here's another sickening stat: 16-33 in series where his team has had won 3 games in them. They've blown a lot of series leads in his time. And it's not like he's had teams with ham and eggers on him. I mean, the Lob City Clippers with a still prime Chris Paul, with a prime Blake Griffin, weren't exactly bums. Those Boston teams, I mean, you had Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. That's not exactly scrubs. Even this in Philadelphia, Joel Embiid, MVP caliber. James Harden, we know his limitations. I know Ben Simmons, when he came in, the expectations were Simmons was going to take the next step. I'm not gonna fault Doc for that. I'm not gonna hang that over Doc's head because that's all on Ben Simmons. But this resume that Doc has, okay, people have called him overrated. I'm not going to go that far, but when the Sixers hired him, you're not exactly hiring a coach that's had a great track record in recent years of advancing past certain levels. Now, when listening to the Sirius XM broadcast of this game, they played the Celtics one on the NBA Network. Celtics broadcasters were making it pretty much seem like this is the end of Doc's career, that he's done as a head coach. I'm not necessarily sure this is it. I mean, if he wants to walk away and he's going to go out on his shield, then yeah, but I think that's entirely Doc's call. I do think there is a team out there, or 2 or 3, that if they wind up with a coaching vacancy, they'd bring Doc in a heartbeat. The record speaks for itself. And second winningest all-time active coach, if he gets hired. Over 1,000 career wins. Track record of leading teams to playoffs. For teams that haven't sniffed the playoffs, that have a young roster that are looking to build their way up, I can see Doc Rivers being appealing. But I also know they got to keep their expectations tampered as to how far they're going to go. I mean, if you want Doc to win you an NBA championship, he's probably not going to do it. If you want somebody that's going to lead you to that next level, Doc's not your guy. So, while I've been against Budenholzer and Nurse and Monty Williams getting fired, I see why the Sixers did this. They brought him in for a certain expectation. He didn't meet it. What's next for the Sixers? The list of coaches already has been dropped. And some of these, I'm just head scratchers. I really am. To me, the 2 names I would look on that list are right on my staff: Dave Jorger and Sam Cassell. I would look at those 2 1 and 1A. I know they're going to want to move away from the Doc staff, but I don't, look, Doc wasn't going to get done. That doesn't mean the staff couldn't. And I know, the whole team, it was a team collaborative effort that the team choked in the playoffs. Okay, fine, I get that. Which includes a team. If we're going to go that avenue, then James Harden can take a fucking walk because he completely collapsed in Game 7 as well, but I digress. The names that we're seeing on the list right now, there's some of the ones that have already been fired in this cycle. You've got Nick Nurse on there. I'd be okay with that, even though, supposedly Toronto fans are saying he's burnt out and that it was a mutual agreed upon departure. He's going to take the year off. I don't believe it. I don't believe that. Mike Budenholzer, his name is on that list. I'm okay with that too. Frank Vogel. So basically the last 3 coaches that have won NBA titles, not named Steve Kerr, that have been fired are on that list. There's 2 that jump out to me: Monty Williams and Mike D'Antoni. I'm going to throw one name out there that Sixers fans are pining for, that is not on this list, I'm going to tell you, don't get your hopes up. And I'll tell you why. That's Jay Wright. If I'm Jay Wright, I'm avoiding the NBA like it's the plague. I'm avoiding Jay Wright like that mystery phone call asking you to give your social security number. All right, Jay Wright is one of the great coaches in college basketball history. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jay Wright is Philadelphia royalty. And I know taking the Sixers job, he could stay home. He could, just transport across town. And the Sixers would probably open up the bag. They would. They'd probably give him a lot of control. It'd be appealing. I could certainly see why. But number one, we all know the NBA is an unforgiving mistress when it comes to head coaches. I mean, I did the video before where I talked about, look at these coaches that are unemployed right now looking for jobs. Doc right atop that list. I mean, over 1,000 career wins. Top 10 most wins in NBA history. I mean, he's unemployed right now. Reason I don't disagree with it, but he's unemployed. 3 of the last 4 head coaches to win NBA championships, unemployed. Ime Udoka, who just led the Celtics to a championship last year. He got fired fired this year and moved on to another job. Now, granted, that was conduct. I get it. But, I mean, you look at the other 3, though, it's not conduct. It's on court. What have you done for me now? And to me, the college game is just a completely different animal from the NBA. It really is. Look at John Beilein, the last successful college coach, another great college coach who made the jump to the NBA, went to the Cavaliers, instantly regretted it. And his tenure, I don't even think, lasted a half a season. To me, if I'm right, I'm staying on the sidelines. I'm staying retired. I'm enjoying the good life. And I'm waiting to see what comes about in the college ranks. Who knows what's going to happen there. I mean, he'll be a hot commodity. Any college job that comes open will open up the bag. And maybe he's decided I had enough. He's decided I'm done. I've done everything I'm going to do. I'm staying retired. I mean, that's fine with him. But to me, I am avoiding the NBA like it's. I'm saying no. I don't care what the Sixers or anybody else offers me. I don't care if they offer me full control. I don't care if they offer me a ready-made team. I'm running from it as far and fast as I can. Now let me talk about the 2 candidates that are mentioned that I scratched my head about. One of them may surprise you because I spoke his reviews. One of them not so much. Monty Williams. I have nothing but love for Monty. Okay, I think the job he did in Phoenix is exceptional. I think will be talked about for a long time as one of the great coaching jobs in NBA history. And I can certainly agree. One person brought it up on Twitter that Monty will actually have a big man that gives a shit. Okay, that makes sense. We know Joel Embiid. If you can take nothing else away from the guy plays with a fire in his ass, that we all, every Suns fan wishes that DeAndre Ayton had. I get that. We're going to get rid of Doc Rivers because he had an epic collapse in the last 2 playoffs. But we're going to bring in Monty Williams, whose teams had epic collapses in the last 2 playoffs. Do you understand where this might not make a whole hell of a lot of sense? I mean, I know Monty has history with the Sixers. I get that. But you're replacing one person who hasn't necessarily done the job in the Western Conference final and semifinals with the person who couldn't get the job done in the Eastern Conference semifinals. I mean, is it not so much? I'm not going to say one and the same, but aren't you replacing one problem with another? And D'Antoni, don't even get me started on that. D'Antoni hasn't won a meaningful game in his damn career. Okay, now I know D'Antoni and James Harden would be great. D'Antoni's the defense's optional coach. We know Harden wouldn't spell defense if you spelled it out for him. I mean, yeah, it's a match made in heaven. I get it, but to me, you're going to replace Doc with D'Antoni. That's like hitting yourself in the head with a fucking 2x4 to get rid of a migraine. I mean, that doesn't fix the problem. You want somebody that's going to win a meaningful game, that's going to win the big games. That ain't Mike D'Antoni. That's never been Mike D'Antoni. Wasn't Mike D'Antoni with the 7 seconds or less Suns. Wasn't Mike D'Antoni anywhere he went. Not in Houston, not in New York, not in L.A. But we're going to replace Doc with D'Antoni. You're better off just bringing Doc back. So I'm confused about that. I mean, of the names I heard on this list, I'd probably say, I don't know. I don't think Vogel's as terrible as people say. I don't. I mean, I think, things got a little dicey at the end in L.A. there. But let's be honest, don't they always with LeBron James teams? Expectations are asinine in LA. They really are, but not that they're going to be any easier in Philadelphia. I get it, but I wouldn't mind Vogel. Budenholzer, I think, would certainly be the gruff and rough that's going to get up in your ass and tell you get your shit together. And that might not sit well with some of these players, but I think Nick Nurse would be perfect. I think he'd be a perfect culture builder there. Get this shit together. Look what he did in Toronto. I think he'd be a very, very good one for them. If I'm them, I'm looking inside the staff, though. I'm looking inside the staff. I'm looking at Sam Cassell. I'm looking at Dave Joerger. And I know Joerger, he sucked in Sacramento. He sucked in Memphis. He actually, if you look at his teams he had and the record he had, he actually overachieved. You look at that WAR statistic. If you look at it in baseball, there's a WAR statistic in basketball. His team's far achieved more than they ever should have with him at the helm. I'm looking at those two first, to be brutally honest with you. But nevertheless, there's going to be a new head guy in charge in Philly. What's next for the team-wise? Could we see James Harden move on? I mean, there's been a lot of grumblings that he wants to go back to Houston. They may be building a super team, and we may get some kind of answer to that tonight with the NBA draft lottery. If the Rockets wind up winning the lottery, I wouldn't be surprised if Harden goes back there because he wants to play with Victor Wembanyama. And a lot of grumblings that Jaylen Brown could be headed there as well because we know him and Ime Udoka are pretty damn close. So could Harden head to Houston to play with one of the players that helped eliminate the Sixers and started this process of elimination for Philadelphia? That wouldn't surprise me. Or could the Sixers re-sign him and bring D'Antoni in, God forbid, to appease him? Ugh, that's just, no. I know some grumblings that Joel Embiid could be moved. I don't buy that for a second. I mean, top player in the league, reigning MVP. Whether or not you agree with it is, no, it is what it is. The only way Embiid gets dealt is if the package is absurd. And I'm talking like there's no way in hell they'd say no to that. I mean, if they get the number 1 overall pick or a top 3 pick and about 5 or 6 draft picks and young players, maybe they'll say yes. But other than that, I can't even see them in entertaining an offer. Could Maxey be moved for a star player? Just a lot of questions to be answered here, folks, in Philadelphia. But it all starts right at the top. Who's going to be the next head coach? We know it ain't going to be Doc Rivers. What's next for Doc? Who knows? This is the end of his career, like the people in the Boston broadcast booth on radio think. It's been a hell of a ride. It has been an interesting one. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. But unfortunately, I think the end result, if this is the end result, it's not necessarily the most telling way to go out because this certainly was a pretty colossal fail in that Game 7. And even in Game 6 where they really had Boston on the ropes, man. They had a chance to put them away. Tatum was having a complete off night, and they just couldn't get the job. Unfortunately, those of you that want to criticize Doc, that's the last image they will point to is their failure to put the Celtics away in Game 6 and then their complete collapse in Game 7. But what I will look at is the fact that Doc was very successful in the regular season. Did a lot of good things. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk again real soon.